What do you think the potential of aging is? If you're saying we're going to see a transformation in the next 5 years, and I believe, well, I'm 56, and I tell people very liberally that if I make it to 70, 120 is a layup. You know, it's almost guaranteed because I believe, and these are beliefs based on evidence, but you know, I'm doing my research very similar to how you're doing your research. I believe cancer in the next 14 years, absolutely a managed disease. Diabetes, probably won't have an issue with that, but a managed disease. The neuro diseases, probably managed. What am I missing? Heart disease, probably can figure that out in the next 14 years. And so now it's accidents. It's like doing something stupid. Like Peter Diamandis says, you know, live to 150 as long as you don't die from something stupid. And I believe that's true.
No, I think that's right. And this is where this idea of a compressed century, like, as you said, if you're 56 now, if you can just live to 66, the amount of progress we're going to see in those next 10 years are absolutely going to help you stay alive at least another 20 years. And then in those next 20 years, because things are going to continue to go exponentially, yes, we will then be able to, as I say to a lot of my clients, we're just always going to be able to potentially stay one step ahead of the Grim Reaper, as long as we don't get into a physical accident.
When I talk about longevity, escape velocity, and introduce that term to people, they're just like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah. Your life expectancy is, over the course of a year, your life expectancy is going to increase a year and a day or more. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's possible. That's coming. They're like, are you out of your mind? I'm like, no, these are the types of changes that we have to deal with. And does that create problems? Absolutely.
Right. And that's, this could probably be an entirely different podcast, but this is where I'd like to see our public policy officials actually begin taking seriously this issue, this idea that our world is going to look significantly different within the next 5 years. And so I guess I would like to tie this in to, like, within the next 5 years, I think the stress that our political system is going to be put under is going to have political ramifications, which I can't predict. But this idea, and I just want to go to longevity and Social Security and Medicare, if those systems collapse, that is a real issue. This idea of significant job displacement. Some people say that within the next 5 to 10 years, 40% of all jobs might be displaced by AI. That is a real possibility. What they dismiss is the creation of new jobs. They never sort of factor that in. Existing jobs might go away, but this idea that, and I'm just going to use this as an example, that a truck driver or who is displaced by AI can't suddenly be or quickly retrained to do something else. Over time, I think they can, and AI will actually help us train people better, but there's going to be a painful period of transition. I liken it, go back 100 years ago during the Industrial Revolution. 120 years ago, approximately 50% of all Americans either lived or worked on farms. Today, it's less than 2%. And that was a painful transition, but we had quite a bit of time to sort of deal with people moving from farms, coming into cities, being retrained. But now, again, with this compressed century, we're going to see all of this displacement take place at a much faster level. And I think that's going to stress our educational systems, our social structure systems, and other things. And I don't quite know how that's going to play out. But I would say this, is that one of the things that I'm certain of in sort of the 75% range is we're going to see serious conversations in the next few years about a shorter work week. I think one of the temporary solutions is, I think there's just inherent value in work. Now, do we need to work 40 hours a week necessarily? I don't buy that, but I think we should all be working. But I think one of the temporary solutions is to say, keep most people gainfully employed. We're going to have to go to shorter work weeks and kind of share the work. That might be one way of trying to deal with the political stress to our political system that's coming.
People might listen to this and say, that Jack Uldrich is crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We can't handle this level of change. But we have handled this level of change, maybe not as quickly as what you're suggesting here, but it does seem like it's going to happen that quickly. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Kevin Kelly, who's a futurist, has been on this show. And when we talked, he said that artificial intelligence is going to do to intelligence what electricity, the internal combustion engine, the steam engine did to muscle power. Prior to those inventions, if we wanted to move something, we used an animal to move it, or we moved it with our own muscle. We didn't have cranes. We didn't have cars and trucks and locomotives to move things. We moved it with our muscles. And your example of going from 50% of people working in farming to 2% over the course of, I don't know how many years, decades, a handful of decades, really proves that, we went from muscle to mind. And now we're going to from mind to something else, and I don't know what that something else is.